You are all more or less aware of our intensive researches into the subject.
This is very intensive work, and for something like this, I'd say...
After such a thorough, intensive investigation...
He was in intensive care, but there's no record of his whereabouts in the hospital.
Divorced him after he put her in intensive...
IQ test today. Young auto mechanic Ed Walters...
concluded itself has probably been one of the most...
Since I've been working so intensively with Florence...
Yes, he's in the intensive care ward at Our Lady of the Worthless Miracle.
Better to think of this place like it's an intensive care ward of a hospital.
Men died with an erection. You are all more or less aware of our intensive researches into the subject. Sexuality declined, probably because we no longer needed to...
Okay, you can hire us, but we're not cheap. This is very intensive work, and for something like this, I'd say couldn't do it for less than 5.
But I think the opposition is disappointed, that after such a thorough, intensive investigation, that 7 persons were indicted.
He seems to have disappeared.
Disappeared?
He was in intensive care, but there's no record of his whereabouts in the hospital.
But that's impossible.
May I see his medical chart?
Well, Clark's wife divorced him after he put her in intensive care.
What'd she do? Spill some wine on the rug?
In an intensive IQ test today, young auto mechanic Ed Walters scored 186, placing him in the top point...
Post.
Yes.
I think the investigation that has just concluded itself has probably been one of the most intensive that the Department of Justice and the FBI has ever been involved in.
One other thing. Since I've been working so intensively with Florence, I've rather neglected my other students. It might be...
So they were able to get him to the hospital in time?
Yes, he's in the intensive care ward at Our Lady of the Worthless Miracle.
Well, this certainly comes as a shock to me, Lieutenant.
Not yelling. You'd better to think of this place like it's an intensive care ward of a hospital.
I think of it as a bucket of piss to drown.
Mideast, Balkans, Central America, West Africa. Interesting work, but travel intensive.
Sotto lo statuto della sezione 545 del TAI.
Where's intensive care?
Man, I mean, come on, read the file. Shelley Webster held on for 30 hours in intensive care, and body finally just gave it up.
What machine?
Number 714, the intensive care unit, St. Andrews. 2nd floor.
You a doctor?
While trying to escape from an unknown assailant, Marshall is listed as critical and under intensive...
This is probably going to seem a little strange.
They like this couple, Max. It looks like they just came back from Masters and Jobs.
Yeah, intensive care ward. My God. Hey, Max, I think she's giving me the eye.
Enormous respect I have for Dr. Rydell. I'm going to place you in his intensive anger management program for 30 days. But if you fail...
Those injuries, Maxine?
Yes, Nick. What they're saying is that the princess is in the intensive care unit of a southeast Paris hospital. She has concussion, a broken arm, and...
What was she doing here?
Intensive care. You pendejo fucking gutter shits. And Thursday night and Saturday too. I just fuck...
On the radio.
Intensive care. X-ray reveal multiple fractures throughout the body.
Chess. In a coma.
Oh!
Stuck in intensive care.
Wait.
With that heart monitor beeping and like...
How he does now, we'll have to see. He's in intensive care.
Right.
Oh, may I have...
Can't play anymore. His treatment has been very intensive today. Can I ask you not to stay too long?
Thank you.
How soon do you think you'll be able to work?
Well, he's out of intensive care, back in a private room. The doctor says it's just a matter of rest.
2 months. Please let me finish. Will you please let me finish? With intensive psychotherapy, an autistic child can be treated...
The Revlin report plainly shows that autism is not a psychological... Let me explain something to you. Freddie's in intensive care with a bit of a brain hemorrhage. You were there at the scene.
Cryptogenic origin.
I see no reason not to transfer her to the surgical intensive care unit.
Mr. Schwartz, you're going to be fine.
Thank you so much for joining us today for our final demonstration of the Girls' Summer Intensive. Today, they will be mock competing in 3 very demanding events.
Code Blue Intensive Care. Code Blue Intensive Care.
30 minutes.
Much depends on how much you put into it.
And when would we begin? Well, our next intensive program, the one that we've geared towards parents, starts in June.
Mother. Did you know there was a little girl in that car? Now she's in intensive care? We know you're involved somehow. But guess what?
There was a very important file on this desk. A file that represented 2 months of intensive research. It's my guess that you threw it out.
Intensive care unit.